At the Capitol, the government default deadline quickly approaching, and while negotiations are optimistic in tone, there's still a deep divide. WCNC Charlotte's Bree Jackson is in Washington with more.
President Biden travels to Japan for the G7 summit today, but he is postponing part of his overseas trip in order to return to Washington and continue debt ceiling negotiations. A new sense of urgency to prevent an unprecedented and potentially catastrophic government default. President Biden cutting short his overseas trip.
I'm postponing the Australia portion of the trip and my stop in Papua New Guinea in order to be back for the final negotiations with congressional leaders.
The president's change in plans follows the second round of debt talk negotiations in the last 2 weeks. The administration and Republicans hinting at some progress and showing agreement on at least one thing.
We know we're not going to default. They know it. We know it.
Default is not an option. It would tip the country into a recession and cost us millions of jobs. The president simply won't allow that to happen.
But the two sides remain far apart on certain issues.
We've got to find a way that we can curb our spending, raise our debt limit, and also grow our economy.
Republican demands include work requirements for federal aid programs, something Democrats strongly oppose. Negotiators are staring down a June 1st debt default deadline.
We have to proceed with the fierce urgency of now in order to make sure we can reach that bipartisan, common sense, common ground agreement.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says it's possible a deal could come by the end of the week. And the White House appointed OMB Director Shalonda Young and Senior Advisor Steve Ricchetti to continue negotiations with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's office while President Biden travels overseas. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.